on Saturday, Connor, my son in Canada, challenged me to do a black and white photograph every day. I was quite intrigued by this, so I suddenly found myself taking 4 images per day, and this is day 3. And what I thought I'd do, because I said to my brother Michael that he should do the challenge as well. What I'm about to do with this blog is actually show him how I've gone about the process of shooting my black and white images. I am basically using my Canon 550D, which is a little bit of an old camera at the moment. It's not the only one I've been using. I'm also using some extension tubes which you can put on your lenses, and I'm using an old film lens that has f1.4, which gives a fairly wide aperture, and there's the aperture of the lens. So it's a fairly wide aperture lens. This is a Chinon lens, and so I can use my old film camera. I have this adapter, so it allows me to use Pentax K lenses on my Canon EOS 550D. It's quite simple to use. Basically, you have your lens and you match up 2 red dots, put that on, and that allows me now to put it on my extension tubes. So there's my extension tubes, again marrying up the little red dot, and put them onto the Canon. And what that allows me to do is to get in really close to an object. So we can bring that in and you can get in some really nice close-up shots. So I've been taking a load of photographs, macro type photographs, using this little combination, which actually works out really well. Now that image there, I'd set the camera to black and white, but what I've discovered is that it's actually better to take the photographs in colour and then manipulate the colour images in Photoshop. So part of what I'm going to do today is just go through that process I went through. It was very frosty, and so there was a lot of nice sort of ice crystals on my car, so I had a chance to, you know, just go in really close and take a few nice shots. Again, what I found by using the macro lens was that I could have unusual angles of all the things I was looking at. So things that, you know, normally would look quite boring, just by using the macro lens, the extension tubes on my lens allowed me to get in really close and give a really shallow depth of field. And then part of the process was to take the things into Photoshop and manipulate the image using the black and white sliders. So I'll take you through that process. I took 2 photographs. One was black and white and the other one was in colour. In the black and white one, what I've done is looked at the image to see how it might need to be adjusted, and I'm just going to try and see if I can play around with the levels in this one and just increase a little bit the contrast of that image. And that's what I've just done there, just to add a bit more of dynamic range to the whole photograph. So that would be that one done. So I'm just going to save that one as Ice 1. Nice one. Now the second photograph is actually in colour, obviously, you can see so. But what I can do is I can make adjustments. I'm going to go black and white, and I now have all these settings that I can play around with to see how I can change the sensitivity of that. And here we go. So blue, if I play around with the blue, there's a lot I can do with the sensitivity of how what we get to see. And I can play around with cyan, and we start to get a different view of that same image, which can be quite interesting to play around with. Play around with the greens. Green's not really doing too much. Yellow. See, there's yellow is adding in some of that kind of darker area just there. And we just play around with the blue again to see what we get. So we get to see something totally different from that previous photograph. Again, what does red do? It's adding a little bit of contrast in there as well. So I'll just go OK. And if I now go to adjustments and look at the levels there, again, just see what kind of image I can create. That's okay. And the last one I tend to look at, let's have a look at exposure. So that's one image, and that's the other image. On this particular occasion, I think that image actually wins out. It's quite a nice looking image, and that was originally taken purely in black and white, and I just had a chance to play around. But this one gave me a chance or an opportunity to play around with different aspects of that image. So let's just save that as ice002. We'll open that one again. There it is again. And we'll just go through that process again of the black and white and just see what happens if we change some of the blues there. Play around with red. We have a totally different type of image just because we've used the color. And if we go to exposure, play around with the exposure, see if that, it's not going to do anything, so I'll just cancel that one and then just go to the levels. And we have to be careful we don't start to lose some of the information in the whites by having that up too high. We bleach that out kind of thing. But there we go. Now that's another version using that. So it's the same image that I've used here, but by shooting in color and playing around with the reds, the greens, the blues, the cyan, the yellow, etc., I have a totally different type of image that I can create just by playing around. So by starting off with a color image, I've got more flexibility in what I do with the image than when I just shoot it purely in black and white, because I'm just left with whatever is black and white. But with the color images, I can play around with the color sensitivity to create a totally different type of image. I've been using film for about 40 years, black and white film, and I used to love taking the cameras out of black and white film and just shooting stuff. And there's a kind of, again, nostalgia which I had last week in the video. What I've kind of discovered is there's more flexibility in the digital cameras. There still looks as though there's grain, if I want grain, in the images, even though they're electronic images. I've got like 3200 ASA shots. Those images do get very, very grainy. And it's just a case of playing around. But I think the digital cameras are just giving me lots more flexibility than what I'm used to with an ordinary stills camera, that I might only have 100 ASA film, which needs quite a lot of light to get a good exposure. But with the digital cameras like this one, I can change the sensitivity of the CMOS chip and just experiment and enjoy the process without too much hassle. So using the old film cameras, you're having to use processing tanks like this, which have to be loaded in the dark. And you know, you're spending about 40 minutes or so processing it, and you're never quite sure what you're going to get. And ideas, things you thought you might have, you might suddenly discover were not as good as they were when you finally process them. So yeah, I'm enjoying the digital stuff.